Thank you very much, Professor Islam. It's wonderful to be here and so wonderful to speak to our audience about the few things that we have learned over the years and to share some of those insights with them today. So I think to get right on our way and to share with you what we have learned over a number of years in developing students' capacity to interact when they work with their curriculum, when they work with their learning materials. And what we have found, and I think this is one of the big passions of my heart, is that when we work with our students, it's important to look at the environment. We have to make sure our curriculum is in line, but we also need to understand that our students must be empowered. And I think that's one of the two purposes of OBE, and that's why it's such a joy to talk to everybody today. And the first one, to maximize the conditions of success for our students, and for us as coaches, mentors, teachers, to work with them and to create these conditions under which they will be able to flourish, not only in their studies, but also for the rest of their lives. So we love to talk about lifelong learning. And of course, then there's so many applications for what we are going to talk about. There is let me just get back to where we were. The SDG 4 outcomes that we also need to take into account. But I don't want to stay with this too long today. We have some time to share, and I want to give a little bit more attention on how we will be able to help our students. But for that to happen, I think it is important for me just to give you a little bit perspective, and I'm sure that everybody is quite aware, especially after the lockdowns that we have seen globally, the impact that that has had on our students. And I think we are also experiencing this really every day as we work with them. Just to get a little bit of perspective on the situation that we are talking about. We know that before the pandemic, there was already a situation of learning poverty in many areas across the globe. And the prediction was that by 2030, around 800 million citizens worldwide will either have dropped out of school or graduate school without the necessary skills to be employable. And that low level of reading and writing skills, so literacy is playing a major role. And we need to make sure that they will have these basic skills to be employable, especially with view of the industrial revolution that we are in at the moment. So the data after the lockdowns gives us an even more disturbing picture. There has been a definite increase in learning losses, and we can see that there's an impact even in oral reading fluency beyond grade 5. So we are currently sitting with this scenario that it's almost like, we know there's a problem, but we don't know how big and how deep this problem is going. And this challenge will be with us for a few years to come. So if we look at school closures, the biggest impact currently, according to the data that we have, has been the biggest impact in Latin America and the Caribbean, also in South Asia. You will see there's been major impact. Although sub-Saharan Africa already were challenged with this fact that most of these kids, around 8 to 9 children, cannot understand what they are reading by the age of 10. And when we know that learning to read and reading development does not just happen by itself, this is something that must be explicitly taught. And we can see that even though it was already very high, we have seen some learning losses taking place. And the longer that schools stayed closed, the bigger the learning losses have been. So if we look here, you will see sub-Saharan Africa is very high on the list there. We have Latin America and the Caribbean just below. And then, of course, as I mentioned, Southeast Asia also in the picture. And so we need to know that we are going to be behind schedule in reaching the SDGs. Crucial development didn't take place. We are falling further behind. And then, of course, students that are getting back to school are up to 30% behind the expected development. So the gap between the student and the learning materials has increased. And that is what we want to find a solution for. I've just did a little bit of reading on what it will cost to recover these learning losses. This is just in the United States. There is a very big need, and there is a very high cost. Even if we do acceleration in academies, if we do high intensity tutoring, the cost to get these students where they were supposed to be is going to be very high. So we need to find the right solutions. And the good news is that there are solutions out there. And what we want to bring to your view is that it's important to look at norms to help us to gauge where our students are. But not necessarily only the norms. We must look at how they are improving. That should also play a big role when we are working with visually developing our students and improving literacy levels, improving learning as well. And we need to monitor them as closely as possible. A second area that needs to have high attention is to make sure that we do a quick screening. We don't want to spend too much time. And what I also want to mention here is it's not necessarily an evaluation as such, but almost more a sense of let's put on our GPS and find out where we are currently so that the students can plot a path out of the situation or the place where they are now. Then the second last one, spend more time focused on reading and on math in junior classrooms. And then, of course, very, very important, silent reading fluency, which is the way we read when we learn, is very important and need to have the attention even in our higher school classes, college level, even up into tertiary, and then focus on strong core instruction so that they can and ensure that they can access the information within the curriculum that they are going to be working with. All right. So in all education, reading is the basis of all learning. And if we don't develop these reading skills, they are going to struggle. If a student is reading at a proficiency level of a primary school student and they have to access information in high school, this is going to be very much challenging to them. And we need to find, I have the understanding that it's not only about literacy or learn to read, but we must find an entry point into multiple literacy and also develop visual intelligence. And we're going to talk a little bit about that in a short while. So our target is to increase the capacity of our students, to develop them, to give them the structure, to empower them to work efficiently with visual information. And that is where we want to get to. So let's quickly look before we go further on the way to have impact on what is learning. From the point of view that we are talking now. So for us, learning is connecting neurons, it's developing neural pathways, and it is enhancing neural networks that's already established. And the good thing for those of us who are beyond 50, for years we thought that, after 20, it's all the way downhill. But neuroplasticity has now proven that our brains are still creating new neurons, and that these new neurons are also being connected as we continue to learn, even up into our late 70s. And it has an ability, our brain has an ability to reorganize itself. So that's the neuroplasticity of the brain. And this reorganizing, it's a creative process that's taking place in the brain. So every day as we are learning new things or we are not using old things that we've learned, our brain is actually changing itself. So every skill that you have has been constructed in your brain in a specific region or regions as a result of training and application, and connections in the brain is continually getting stronger or weaker, depending on whether we are using it or not. And that's how we can unlearn some of our habits. All right. And now this way of talking about the brain is almost like the muscle building part of the brain. And in this muscle building part of the brain, let me just get that rid of that. This muscle building part of the brain is the physical basis why repetition strengthens our power of choice. And at the end of the day, this is when learning something and you have enough repetition, it becomes automatic over a period of time. And that is very important for training, reading, literacy skills, and of course then developing visual intelligence. So how do we learn to read? And the latest neuroscience research has shown us that our brains is not naturally wired for written language, but it is for spoken language. And that is why young children very quickly learn to speak a language. But our brain must transfer the sounds of the spoken language to a written cipher that makes meaning when we are reading. And the only way that we can teach this or learn how to read is very systematically, where we learn to connect the sounds to a written cipher. And reading is a very complex action. And there's a lot of factors that plays a role in learning to read, and at the end of the day, in just using the skill that we have now acquired. So physical, physiological, psychological, educational values within a school, is reading important within the family, in the community. All of those aspects, and even in environmental factors, will have play a role and will have an impact on the reading action at any given time. So that is why for what we are talking about, the relative skill level of our students. I just want to take a little step back here and make sure that we understand how these pathways in our brain is built when students are actually learning to read. So the first thing that needs to happen is children at a very young age must develop sound sensitivity. So they must learn how to play with the smallest parts of words. They must also exercise neurons in the brain that was naturally designed to recognize objects and faces, and retrain these neurons to now remember specific letters like B, D, and P, for instance. That can be a big problem.
Or perhaps she has the connectivity issues. Please have patience.
Hello, Prof.
Yes, we are here. Please continue.
Did you lose me there?
Yes.
Did I lose you?
Please share your slide.
Let's go back.
Okay.
There we go. Are we good?
That's fine. Please continue.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So let me just get back to where we were. All right. So we need to be building these connections And we need to build them very strongly between the sounds and the spoken letters of the language, or the written, the cipher of the language that the child is learning to read in. Then we need to build capacity to blend the sounds together, and of course, know more and more words in the spoken language, and grow in the skill to redirect groups of letters and words. This is also very important, to bring it together with the sounds and the meaning. Then the next step would be to break up words and sounds more quickly, so that we can develop that letterbox in the brain where okay. Now am I back? Let me just see. Am I back? All right. Looks like we might have a problem. Okay.
Dear audience, there is a connectivity problem with the speaker. Please have patience. We are here just a few minutes, perhaps. Yes, yes, Professor, please start. We are
Yes,
eagerly waiting for your.
okay. All right. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with the internet. It seems to be troublesome at the moment. So let's just get this going again. Are we good? Can you hear me? Everything is okay now?
Yeah, it's fine.
Thank you, Professor Islam. Okay.
Okay.
So let's just get back to where we were. Sorry about that. Technology is wonderful when it works, but if it doesn't work, it can be quite challenging. Isn't that true? So we need, at the end of the day, we want these students to grow in the skill to read and understand words more and more automatically. And now if you refer back to our previous slides where we said that that is the way that we are actually learning, and we want to get this skills to be automatic. But learning to read does not and should not stop at our junior primary students, because we want to help them to develop to advanced literacy skills. And at the end of the day, visually intelligent people. So most of us believe that reading stops at junior classes, but it is specifically when they are older that students, and even in the job situation that we have now with the fourth industrial revolution, where we have to unlearn and relearn new skill sets, and there's so much new information available daily, and that it's very important to develop and to continue. All right. So we are trying to get our students from being a good reader to being visually intelligent. And we need to prepare them for this future that we don't even ourselves know exactly what it is holding in for them. Visual intelligence is the ability.
Share this slide.
Okay, it's not sharing.
No, it's not. No.
Okay. Let's try again. Is that better? Is it sharing now, Professor Islam?
It has started just a bit.
Okay, good. So getting from being a good reader to being visually intelligent, we want these students to be able to find, not only find, but access and work with and use information needed for the task at hand so that they can complete the assignment successfully. And therefore, reading skills are never completely perfected. Even in college and adult life, they still need to develop advanced reading skills and learning strategies. And therefore, and even strategies and skills that's targeting specific areas of learning is just as important for future development. At the end of the day, we must increase the capacity of our students so that they can see more, read faster, think smarter, and work harder. So why is advanced reading and learning important? The cognitive load theory indicates to us that when our processing capacity when the cognitive load exceeds that processing capacity. So there's too much information and we don't know how to work with it properly. There's an overload of information. We are going to struggle to complete the specific activity successful because intelligence is actually dipping. It is diminishing. And therefore, if we can develop more skill sets and strategies to work faster, to work better with information, then we will definitely be able to help our students advance to the next level. The challenge is that we are not trying to help one or two of our students. We want to work with our students in a sense to create groups of people that are more intelligent, that can find answers to the challenges that we will face in the future at a faster pace and at a higher level. So we want to achieve targeted and efficient improvement for all our students. Now, the way that we have found over the years that works very efficiently in the research that we have done and in the application that we have seen is to use the physics of muscle training and muscle memory, and combine that with the science of neuromodulation, as I have described to us now earlier in the session, and use this within the processes of reading. And we have seen that that achieves a higher level of development for students that are participating in this type of skill development. So let me give you an introduction to what we have developed and have seen great results with. iBrain Gym, which is an app-based system, which therefore gives students access. It doesn't matter where they are, as long as they have internet connectivity, like we are struggling with now. They should have good internet connectivity. And the course is then an automated program that takes them through gauged gains and exercises. It is gauged according to the personal outcomes of the student. So it's an individualized development that takes place. According to personal outcomes, we ensure that they can achieve maximum improvement. And the good thing is that this is then targeted at the specific skill level of the student. So who can benefit from this type of development? We have seen right through from emerging readers and foundation phase to high school, college, even postgraduates. And as I've said, in surface training as well, we have a lot of people that are shifting jobs globally, and they have to unlearn certain skill sets and relearn new skill sets. And also, even if you stay in the same job, continue to learn and develop according to new developments within the area that you are working is also very important. And for all of those aspects, it is very beneficial if we can see more and read faster and remember better, find information quicker, know what is the difference. Okay. So how are we training visual intelligence? The way to do this is to play targeted games and exercises, training visual processing skills, to stimulate mind activation and teach students how to think about the way that they are learning, to advance their comprehension skills and strategies, and to develop higher order thinking skills. And all of these should then happen within the skill set or the frame of development that the student is currently in. Now, the system was set up in a way that we can quickly discover where students' skill sets are And the 3 areas, or actually 4, that is very important for our first initial placement. And I'm deliberately not calling it evaluation. We are talking about a placement here, because we want to find out where they are. Is the perceptual accuracy and visual efficiency assessment. It's just to find out how much I can see and how fast my eyes can interpret the information. Then the language placement, which is crucial to find out at what level the student will be comfortable to work with information. We don't want students to focus so much on their language processing that they are not able to acquire new skills and strategies as they are completing their games and exercises. And then, of course, the reading, silent reading fluency with comprehension would be the placement, complete placement for a student. Once a student has been placed, they have 15 individualized sessions that they work through, combining iGym exercises, Read Gym, which includes also vocabulary development at their level, and then of course cognitive development with comprehension games that they would be playing. There's of course then also the downloadable worksheets that students can also use for further work. The implementation of this type of system is very important when we look at larger numbers of students. We have seen that students in a classroom, around 70%, 70 to 80% of students find it greatly beneficial if they can do this type of development. And then, of course, you have, this is your average students within a class. And then you have a group of students that could benefit from more personalized intervention as well. And then your students that don't really need this type of intervention, but also find great benefit from it. And to actually facilitate that type of implementation, you need access to data. So the dashboard access, the learner management systems, the reporting systems have been designed to give leveled reporting to from grassroots level up right through to management, to those that are participating and supporting the students within this development. And then we get to the neuromodulation aspects as well, where the game plan is very important. Certain sets of exercises has to be completed together, and the game plan facilitates the student as they are continuing with their 15 sessions that they are completing. And then, of course, one other aspect is in-system communications, to ensure that those students that do miss a session or something happens and you need to send a message out, that is the type of communication that just makes it so much easier to help larger volumes of students to accurately and in a targeted way develop these very important skills and strategies. Okay. So what type of dimensions of knowledge?
1 moment.
Are we still live? Are we ready?
Still working.
I see.
Sorry,
I've got another
I'm having trouble
person.
with the connection. Please try again in a moment.
Let me just, there we go. I've got another attendee here. Siri was also attending. So let's look at the dimensions of knowledge that is improved with a type of system like iBrain Gym. Firstly, one of the great development areas that we've seen is in memory skills. So one of the universities we've worked with here in South Africa have found that their students actually had a 77.3% improvement in memory skills. We find on average, as I said, it's a relative skill that we are working with, but we find on average an improvement of 6 years in junior and senior schools on average together. And I think one of the reasons is that we are looking at all these different dimensions of knowledge that's being improved. So we are giving the students the skill sets they need to not only work with information in a factual way, but also conceptual, and right through to metacognitive training, which is so crucial for the time frame of education that we are in. Just a quick look at some of the areas. The game plan, as I've mentioned, helps students to develop executive function. And this was a very interesting feedback that we had from one of our partners, another university we work with. Students commented on the fact that it's not only their visual intelligence and their literacy levels and their language that improved, but they really experienced that they were able to more easily manage their schedules at university, for instance. So executive function also gets attention within the system. Keeping your schedule helps them. The mind activation pages gives them pre, in, post reading strategies and new skill sets that they develop. The comprehension area helps them to develop a way of working fluently with information so that it is a fluent and a message that makes sense that they can now decode and use and apply. Also, a proficient completion rate helps them to think of flexible ways and handling challenges in daily routine and tasks better. And then, of course, there's goals that are given to students. So achieving goals scores strengthen resolve and helps them to have a breakthrough mentality, which is also, I almost want to say byproducts, but great benefits that the system has. Okay. So iBrain Gym, as I've mentioned, is positioned for mass consumer uptake. And it gives us a great implementation. Okay.
Professor Minda, are you?
Yes, I'm still here. I'm still here. It seems to be quite challenging to stay online today. I don't know what is going on, but I am doing my utmost best to stay with you so we can share the message.
If you need a few minutes break, then we can also, by the time you can solve the issues.
Yeah, I have some of my technical guys here trying to sort it out. It seems that it's 100%. The signal here is very strong, so I don't know. So I think we can just keep going if that is okay. All right. Okay. So you know, students love working on this type of system. It is gamified personal dashboards that they have access to. They can see their own progress, which is greatly beneficial. They experience the development within their subjects that they are studying as well. And of course, as we've mentioned, the cognitive training is also very high on the agenda. And what we believe this type of development will be the final outcome is that we will increase the number of students that are reading on their expected grade levels. And of course, with this, then we'll be able to drive more students into college and even further study. And at the same time, we will be able to ensure active and engaged citizens that are visually intelligent. And for us, taking visual intelligence together is to say that people who are visually intelligent are able to make better choices for a better future. So they can use all the information that is available to them, and they're able to process this information at a higher level. And because of that, they can see greater opportunities. They are able to break through previous limitations. And I think with the development or the focus on entrepreneurial development, this is also very, very important. So the system, I'll share some of the statistics with you now. I have rewired 170,000 brains. So that's the student profiles that we currently have available. And there's a number of academic publications and even 2 doctoral theses that's been published on the outcomes that the system has had on students that have been interacting with it. The traction is also, as I've mentioned, right through from emerging learners or readers right through to lifelong learning. We have schools and hubs and projects running in various countries. The interesting thing is that we do see results in all of these areas. So I want to spend a little bit of time on the metrics of the system, as I believe this is one of the breakthrough areas that we have seen in iBrainGYM's development. So the norms that was incorporated initially is well established, even from the 1960s, for silent reading fluency. There has been some further research done in the last 10 years that once again confirmed these norms. And we have developed an index where we compile a level of proficiency as the action, interpret, and understand factor. And I'm going to discuss these factors with you here right after this slide. So we want to articulate the measurable aspects within the other 2 factors, the visual processing factor and the cognitive development factor, as one measure to gauge how students are actually progressing through the system. So let's look at how we see information processing or reading within our students taking place. So students are faced with the information that they have to study, and we have identified various areas that is important. Firstly, the optic or oculomotor area, which relates to the physical aspects of the eyes, the muscles, the nerves, parts of the brain that produce these movements, on how we look at information when we perceive it. The second area would be the perceptual area, which is the area that identifies the ability to interpret and also to become aware of something, specifically through the visual sense at this intersection we are now. So those 2 areas, oculomotor or optic motor and perceptual, together combined will give us an outcome regarding the visual processing factor. So how is the student or the person busy processing visual information? Okay. Are we back? Let's try again. Okay. So the next area would be the cognitive development factor, which is the area where we must understand the information that we are working with. So we're talking about lower order thinking skills and higher order thinking skills. And at the end of the day, for the information to be processed to a state of competence, the student must be able to action new information with attention. They must process it through the working memory, and then they must interpret the new information against known information through reasoning and logic in the long-term memory. So we are busy building a schema of understanding, and we want to measure how students are progressing within building the schema of understanding or the actions that they need to take to do that. So there are the three measurable factors then, which gives us this flow or this indication of progression taking place. And the three factors is then the visual processing factor, which combines again optic motor, ocular motor, and perceptual area together, the cognitive development factor. And then the cognitive development factor is measured as a percentage against the comprehension or the complexity of the content. So it's not, and we're going to talk a little bit about that now. And those two combined gives us the action, interpret, and understand factor, which tells us at what level a student is working with specific information. Okay, so those norms and metrics, we are talking about knowledge and skills, which is the training, learning, assessment, study skills, the application of learning. And then the cognitive development, where we apply, we analyze, we evaluate, and the neurowiring enhances the interaction between the eye and the brain. This improves comprehension, vocabulary, and communication skills, and we have a faster processing speed, and this improves self-confidence. So when students are working with their learning materials, with curriculum, reports, or presentation, or whatever type of information it is, when we develop these areas, it gives them a higher level of visual intelligence that makes it easier for them to work with their curriculum. And this then gives us, let me just go back there. So if we look at the visual processing factor, we're talking about perceptual accuracy. We're talking about visual efficiency and accuracy and memory. And of course, all of that impacts on the reading speed, but we need to keep into account as well the readability of the material. We'll talk a little bit about that now. Where we get to the cognitive development factor, we're talking about the depth of comprehension and the information processing ability of the student, and also related to the difficulty of the material. And those two together then gives us the AIU factor, which helps us to assess what is the visual intelligence. And for that, we have developed and designed a number of factors, and that gives us a norm-based outcome. Now, it's important to understand the next area of discussion. We cannot only look at the reading speed and the comprehension if we want to find out what is a student's visual skills or what is their action, interpret, understand level. We must also measure it against the difficulty of the material, because the weighting is different. For instance, if I can read a grade 2 level passage or story at 200 words per minute, but I'm reading a grade 11 level, the weighting is different because the difficulty of the language is different, and therefore it must have an impact on how we perceive the student's progress. So these norms and standards indicate that the expected levels that needs to be achieved to be able to meaningfully and successfully work with visual information on a specified level or within a specified environment. And that helps us to find if people are ready, if they are able to do what is needed. Okay, so let's look at a number of the results that we have seen with iBrain Gym before we look at what the system looks like. I've got a couple of outcomes here from grade 4 students, which is junior students, and you will notice that before the interaction with the iBrain Gym, they had a cognitive development factor of 54%, and they were able to achieve 65% at the end of their interaction with the system. Their visual processing also improved, and they were able to exceed the norm of 158 beyond at the end of their course. We saw the same type of development with grade 7 students, and then we have a group of 3,000 tertiary students who participated. And you will notice in this slide that the commitment rating with the tertiary students was very high. And that is one of the reasons that they were afforded the opportunity to access the system as part of the curriculum. So it was a course inclusive offering, and because of that we could see a much higher commitment rating, and you will notice that we also had a very, very good improvement with these students of their skill sets. This is a 3 tertiary institutions we worked with over the course of the 2019 academic year. And you will see here as well that we have a consistent improvement. And a very interesting facet of this research that was done is the fact that students seem to improve the visual processing very quickly. So within a one course of 15 sessions, and when we look at neuromodulation, it takes between 8 and 12 weeks to rewire your brain. And so these students were able to achieve very high level of visual processing improvement within the first sessions. And once they completed it, some of them were able to continue with a next course. And you could see the impact on the cognitive development. So it therefore indicates that if you cannot fluently interact, or in a coherent way interact with the information you have to study, it will have a direct impact on the cognitive aspects. Whereas when you are able to work fluently with the information, you have a plan of action, you know where to put different aspects of the information, the cognitive areas is freer and more able, and that more able or have more resources to your availability to focus on understanding what you are busy working with. I'm going to go, this is just 2021 tertiary outcomes where you can see the improvement as well, continuing on the same level. And it's interesting that students here, which would then be first year students, are actually reading at the proficiency of junior primary or primary school students, grade 6 students, 6 years of schooling. Okay, so we are currently, and I'm going to show you what the system looks like, and I want to invite you as well. Let me see if I can get to our chat. Yes. And you can go to ibraingym.com, as you can see here at the bottom of the screen, and you can go to the Place Me, and you can go and have a look for yourself what it looks like there. It is a free access to go and see what it looks like. All right, I'm going to try and play this video, otherwise I will stop sharing and then we'll go, there we go. Let's try and see what it looks like. Can you just
Welcome
confirm,
to the introduction and
Prof. Islam,
demonstration of
can we hear
iBrainGym.
the sound?
Before we take a look at what iBrainGym looks like, let's take a look at what makes iBrainGym unique when compared to other products. Firstly, iBrainGym is scientifically developed and based on the research of the continuous pursuit to understand and enhance the communication between the eye and the brain.
Are we still there?
Yes, ma'am, the voice is okay.
Is the sound on there, Professor Islam?
Yeah, it's okay. Sound is fine.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
Welcome to the introduction and demonstration of iBrainGym. Before we take a look at what iBrainGym looks like, let's take a look at what makes iBrainGym unique when compared to other products. Firstly, iBrain Gym is scientifically developed and based on the research of the continuous pursuit to understand and enhance the communication between the eye and the brain. A world-class team developed and built iBrain Gym. The development is supported by local and international work around visual, reading and comprehension, learning and neuromodulation. Established international and local specialists such as Fracken-Paul, Petty, Rummelhart, and others' work have been used as the basis for the skill development on iBrain Gym. The initial version was released in the year 2020. The launch of iBrain Gym took place after 10 years of practical implementation and experience in online solutions with the beta product, Lab Online. Since the initial version's launch, several studies have been conducted by reputable organizations such as the University of Free State, University of Pretoria, and University of Stellenbosch. And some of the studies have been published in international academic publications on more than 150,000 profiles. The system has been used successfully worldwide. As you will see in a moment, iBrain Gym is presented in the form of fun and interactive games. The difficulty and intensity of the solution adapts to the individual's ability and skill level. Users feel motivated and challenged in the environment, and it is suitable for the ages 5 to 100 and all skill levels. Let's take a look at some of the exercises that a typical 7 to 9-year-old student would find on iBrain Gym. Object mesh. It helps your brain to learn how to complete incomplete pictures. You must be able to distinguish the difference in the outline, shape, detail, and distinguish a complete picture from an incomplete picture. Among other skills, these exercises help your brain to learn how to see context in a situation. Let's look at a next activity. Mind activation and metacognition pages. These teach you how to ask the right questions so you can find the information you need to achieve your goal. Repeating the action trains your brain until seeing the bigger picture becomes a natural way of looking at new information. You will learn how to think about your personal skills and strategies when working with information. And you will discover new and exciting, effective ways to work efficiently with masses of information around you. A child's visual memory is their ability to instantly recall the properties of any given object, symbol, or shape. We mostly communicate with words, both oral and written, but we do not think in terms of words. We think in terms of concepts and pictures. So when we improve our ability to remember pictures and concepts and words, we will improve memory and thinking, which in turn will improve our reading. iBrain Gym uses different sequences of exercises to develop visual memory in tandem with other important visual processing skills. Now let's take a look at some of the reading exercises. Frame Flash. It is aimed at improving your span of recognition as well as the duration of fixation. These exercises help you to see and remember faster and more in fun, game-based way. The skill is fundamental in development of visual analysis and visual discrimination. Flashwords. These are part of a detailed series of exercises in iBrain Gym to build and develop visual sequential memory. It is the ability to remember visual detail in the correct order. This skill is essential for spelling and reading, where you need to remember the order of letters to spell the word correctly, recognize it, and also use it in context. These exercises are developed as fun, bright, and interactive games to keep high interest, motivation, and engagement in user experience. Now let's take a look at some of the exercises that a 10 to 12-year-old will do on iBrain Gym. Count Me. It's an exercise that helps to improve various ocular motor skills, specifically aimed at visual scanning. You are challenged to quickly identify letters or numbers in a group and also remember how many times the examples flashed rhythmically across the screen from left to right. Targeted difficulty levels ensure you stay challenged so you progress in the development of visual processing capabilities. Now let's take a look at one of the tricky exercises when it comes to the reading program. Skimming will put your visual scanning skills to the ultimate test. The game or exercises gives you the opportunity to quickly make your eyes flow over the material on the screen while searching and selecting specific sight words indicated at the top of the screen, as you can see. Let's now look at another exercise in one of the reading programs. Reading and comprehension gives you the opportunity to develop reading comprehension. Reading comprehension is the ability to read, understand, process, and remember what you just have read. Having excellent reading comprehension skills is crucial. It makes reading fun, and when we can read efficiently, it helps not only with academic results, but also in our everyday life. The scrolling, line reading, and full page reading actions, along with other exercises in iBrain Gym, develop students' perceptual accuracy, visual efficiency, visual accuracy, and visual memory, establishing students to decode effectively. Because words and word parts are automatically recognized as visual orthographic images from explanatory and procedural memory, your processing speed improves and allows your working memory to be fully used for comprehension purposes. iBrain Gym offers so much more than your typical learning program. Sticking to your schedule, or game plan as we call it, is as easy as following the directions and messages on your course with your course calendar and personal instructions. Your course is guaranteed to be successful, and you will experience the satisfaction of being on time with your workouts and seeing your graphic results in real time. iBrain Gym is comprised of engaging and motivational exercises to ensure maximum improvement. The course adapts each exercise and game to the participant's specific skill level. The system makes sure that each user is challenged at the right level, not too easy, but also not too difficult. We call this area the growth zone. Also, make sure that you download and use the downloadable worksheets on the dashboard to develop and build extra visual reading and comprehension study or language skills. Research has shown that one of the most important aspects of any development or learning of a new skill and strategies is that it should be aimed at the right level. It should not be too easy nor too difficult. Therefore, iBrain Gym constantly adjusts according to each user's outcomes on the system. It therefore offers an individually tailored and user-friendly learning program that still meets neuromodulation requirements. It is both challenging and motivating for people of all ages and skill levels. Regardless of your busy lifestyle, there is a program to fit you and your family's schedules. Participants on the system play games and do exercises for 25 to 35 minutes a day, 2 days a week, for a period of 8 to 12 weeks. You can even play and work on weekends as long as there is 1 day of rest between your workouts. It is also important to complete the entire workout in 1 day. Research has shown that this level of intensity is necessary to reach and even exceed the required skill level, while at the same time ensuring that the skills are being built into the user's long-term memory with lasting results. Just as our bodies need constant stimulation and exercise to build fitness and strength, your brain also needs intensive structured stimulation to build new neural pathways and strengthen existing neural pathways and networks. You will experience your own improvement within 8 to 12 weeks, and the significant learning gains you experience in a short term will add a lifetime of value to your daily life. These skills can be applied to learn information in any learning area, in any environment. It's applicable for primary school, high school, tertiary study, or the workplace. We want to make sure that you and your child get the best value from iBrain Gym. Results of your training are reviewed by our team, experienced and seasoned program managers. Our support team is ready if you experience any technical challenges to give you the support you need. You can continue with your course at your own pace in the comfort of your own home while still having access to professional and expert advice. We are within reach with one quick email. We hope that you enjoyed the demonstration and that you are feeling excited about a faster, stronger, and fitter brain. Contact our team to discuss iBrain Gym for you.
Okay, so while we still have some time available, I want to invite you to go online at ibraingym.com and to go to the Place Me area where you will be able to complete the form and get yourself ready to do the placement and experience what it would feel like for a student to be able to do that. So with all the challenge that we've had, Prof. Islam, it has been quite a session. I'm not sure if everybody heard everything, but we did our best, and I think we prevailed.
Okay, so thank you, Professor Minda Marshall. It's quite interesting to hear the session from you. And I would like to request the audience, if you have any questions or suggestions, please write down on the chat board. We are waiting for you. By the time I have some issues with you, Professor Minda, do you have any thinking for the blind people, because it is visually intelligent way, but what about the blind people? Do you have any idea for
Yes.
them?
Yeah, we have done some work with students that are not completely blind, but that are poorly sighted. We have seen some development there, but this is an area that would definitely need more research and more development. Definitely with iBrain Gym, that would be challenging to help. We have worked with children at the school for deaf children, and we've had some really good results there as well. So yes, not specifically with iBrain Gym. That's an area that would need more development. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Another issue is actually how we can get, the help from the website of the iBrain Gym. Would you please?
Yes. What I think what I must do is to I'll type in the website name there. iBrain Gym. Let me just put the there we go. People are welcome to go and visit the website. There is a number of blogs. There's some free downloadable materials on it as well. They can do the placement for free. And there's some areas where they can just leave a note and ask somebody from the team there at iBrain Gym to connect with them. And to help them to set up whatever is needed, whether it's for a school or a business or just an individual private person who wants to develop these skills. So they can work, they're welcome to go there.
Yeah, that's good. So my last concern is, do you have any research outcome based on this iBrain Gym?
Yes. We do have, there's a number of publications that have been done on the results of the system. I don't know if you want me just to go back to the slides. I can maybe show you there, and it could be a good point of discussion, because I think the areas, let me just try and find that right slide here for you. I think the areas of where the research had been done is also crucial. Let me just share this. There we go. So as you can see here on this slide, there has been a couple of, oops. Let's go back. A couple of publications and one very interesting research project that was done by with Professor Taukeni at the University of Namibia, where he was working with a group of students up in the north of the country. So these students are also second, sometimes even third language English learning students. So the language challenge there is a very definite, and we saw some really good results there with these students, you know, even helping students whose home language is not English at all. Then the second publication that we did, a research project, was more in a in a city center in South Africa, working with a high-level English school boys' school, where we worked with the data and looked at the impact of the gamification, playing the games, doing these different types of exercises, and the impact that it had on the boys' development. Specifically within the lockdown time that these students were not able to go to school, but were able to access some materials online, and they could continue because this is a cloud-based system. They were able to continue with their learning on iBrain Gym, and we saw some very, very positive results there as well. So yes, there's been a number of publications, and as I mentioned earlier as well, research is ongoing. So very positive there.
Okay, it's a really fantastic idea. We have shared the website for the iBrainGym.com. So the audience, if you have any questions or any other query, please don't hesitate to contact the Professor Minda. So I think that's all for today's session. So I would like to congratulate Professor Minda Marshall on behalf of Infor-OBE, and really it's amazing field for our children to do some research, and we are also performing some research for the visually impaired people by using some sort of technological support. That's why I asked for some of the issues regarding the research and publications. So hopefully we will be communicating in future also, and audience will also be communicating to you through the website you have shared. So that's all for today. Tonight, actually, it's midnight here. So
Yes.
Again, we thank you for your kind participation and your idea sharing, and also sharing your research outcome. So thank you, Professor Minda Marshall. See you once again.
Thank you, Professor Islam. Thank you very much. It was wonderful to be with you. Take care.
Thank you. Yeah, take care.